grew up in a divorced household. So my mom was in the theater, and we do summer stock theater. And I would take pictures, and I'd see all the lights on the plays that she would work on, the musicals she's worked on. So I think it wasn't. I think it was light that first kind of I responded to more than anything else. It probably wasn't a artist or a painter or a photographer. And as the actual knowledge of a photographer, looking at a photographer's work, seeing that probably came more when I got to art school in New York City. And it was during the time of Basquiat and the Mud Club and CBGBs, and it was the rawness of New York City. And that was my campus, because there wasn't any campus. It wasn't a university. It was an art school. It was a perfect background for me, especially since now where I am and what I do and how I see in the collage aspect of my work and, in the painting and that. So it's kind of come a full circle, I guess. I liked doing the portrait and just look at somebody and kind of look in their eyes and kind of see back and have this kind of almost visual memory, a conversation with somebody where I would see them and I could actually feel that if you were to look at the photograph, you would say, I knew that person, or oh, that's exactly who that is. And that was always important to me. I mean, abstractly, to find out that I could actually do this for a living was amazing to me. I didn't know any better. I would say it took years for me to suddenly realize that I had I had a talent to take pictures, but was I an artist? Did I see my work as art? No. I mean, I saw, it took me a while to kind of appreciate what I did. I discounted everything I did. 90% of the stuff I thought was not great, and where other people were completely supportive of it and thought it was the best thing in the world, and I'd look at it and just kind of dismiss it. And I think when I finally got to a point where I remember taking a picture one day, and it was for Rolling Stone, and I had shot a portrait of a singer named Luca Bloom. And I remember pulling the Polaroid and looking at it and making a print of it and realizing that it wasn't just recording an image to answer a problem or a question for a magazine, but it was a portrait. It was truly a portrait of a person looking back to me, and it was in my artistic style of how I lit it and approached it and framed it and done anything else. So at that point, you have to kind of face yourself and say, okay, it's not just I'm not a technician anymore. I'm a photographer. I'm an artistic photographer. I did a portrait, and that would have been, I'd imagine like 6 years into my career before I figured that out. I've been made fun of for not really knowing things about people I photograph. My idea of photographing somebody is walking up and having our opportunity, our moment together. And in believing that portrait's a conversation, I was told by one of my mentors, a guy named Josh Green, he said, when you shoot celebrities, you need to basically not put them on a pedestal. You keep them low. Don't ever walk in and say, oh, I love your work, or you're amazing, or you're one of my favorite actors, or you're my favorite musicians, or like that kind of stuff, because they're coming in as a level playing field. You're an artist, they're an artist. You're about to create something together. It's a collaborative process. But on the flip side of that, when you go to photograph somebody who's not famous, is to put them on a pedestal, because they have no idea why they're being photographed or understanding of that, and they're just beyond themselves, so they're nervous. So if you can kind of prop them up a bit and kind of say, it's amazing what you do with with this child's foundation, or it's great what you're doing to further the education of this, or that is a way to do it. In the art world, I've always been tremendously influenced by the paintings of Francis Bacon and the journals of Ansel Kiefer, and I always lean back to look at Penn's portraits just to remind myself what a true sitting is. Initially, when you had a portrait done, you went for the sitting. You would sit, and the photographer or the artist would look at you and come up with his most honest rendition of who you were, and that would take time. How much do you know about somebody when they plop them in front of you and say, okay, now do a portrait of this person? When I started the music industry, they wanted 12 different images or 15 different images from a day. They didn't want 15 of the exact same pictures, just shot in different places. They want to have content for for whatever. So TV and movie advertising has gone toward that now, and even to the inception of where they're asking you, can you pick up a 5D and do some motion content for, an online, part of their online, or maybe they even want to do a living poster nowadays, where, the motion happens, and being prepared for all that is just trying a lot of different things, and being open to, if it's not working, to just just throw it all away and just go in a completely different direction. And be secure in that, and not just beat yourself the rest of the day and go like, well, I didn't get what I wanted to, and I had this big idea, and I mean, if you're doing a portrait of somebody, you better be ready, because it shouldn't be about you. If my portraits are about me, then I've failed miserably. They should be about the person. They should be the honest answer of who the person is. You're looking at that person. So I always say, is it a portrait of Tori Spelling by David LaChapelle, or is it a LaChapelle photograph of Tori Spelling? I mean, those are very solid statements of deciding how you want to approach your work. In my world, which isn't everybody's, and most art photographers would say it's an Ansel Adams photograph of New Mexico, and that's what it is. But when you're being hired as a photographer to do a portrait of somebody, and an honest portrait of somebody, it should be the portrait of somebody, and then you should just be the punchline. You've done the photograph of the person. I've been blessed in the sense that I've done 15 photo shoots with David Bowie over a time frame, and I met him when he had a band called Tin Machine, and there were 4 bands that day. I mean, four photographers shooting him. I was the last in the day, and he walked in and kind of looked at me and said, like, "What are you going to do differently than anyone else has done today?" And I pulled out a flashlight, because I knew other people who were shooting that day, and I just didn't want to do the same picture. And the magazine wanted something kind of irreverent for the cover and unusual, and so I said, well, I'm going to paint you with this flashlight, and if you take off your shirt and stand over there, we'll start. And he kind of started laughing, and I did a Polaroid, and I showed it to him, and he kind of laughed, and he said, yep, you win. And he goes, this is the most unusual thing I've done all day. And that comes with a question, is that I always kind of say to people, it's like, I'm no different than anybody probably who's listening to this. I wanted to be a photographer, and I went and did it. And they could all do what I do. The whole question is that, you're given an opportunity. What do you do with that opportunity? Do you do what is the obvious picture that comes back that satisfies everybody? Or do you try to challenge everybody by the photograph you take? And I would hope it would be the latter, that you would challenge people. You're in a situation, no matter what time, you can't make the excuse. It's like you do something that you feel is your image. And you hope everyone understands it. If you try to second guess the industry by doing a simple picture, you'll lose. You're just one of a million then. Over the years, I've, tried a lot of things and done a lot of things, and know that, you buy that camera and you pull it out of the box, that's the starting point. You don't just use it because that's what they're telling you. Throw the instructional book away and kind of know that you can push every boundary on that camera. I've never been a fan of sterility. I think that I like seeing flaw, and I like seeing people's darker sides and things going wrong and things happening out, things going wrong. And I love the idea of being able to do something only once. And I think that probably is my arrogance as an artist, to say that the true sense of doing something, if you can't recreate it in a photograph, is perfect, because that means that you gave everything to one thing. And that's a perfect thing in the sense that you can't keep doing it over and over and over again. I feel people overlight to begin a photograph, and I think that's the direction you're going in. I would say that you start with a minimal amount of light, and you start adding pieces in and decide how intense you want each piece. What is the color? What is it you're trying to use? The light should bring you. I mean, that's the selfish act of a photographer, is that you can guide people with light. That's the one thing you can do. I mean, everything else, someone can tell you how to frame it, or tell you this is what they want in it, or this is the clothes and everything else. But you as the photographer can take that light, whatever you seem to choose, and what you deem to be the light for the photograph, and you can guide the viewer, and that is your signature. That is your point of view. If in a commercial aspect you feel that you're not in control of the situation, but you are. I just think people need to basically go shoot, take pictures, be present, and just not worry about what people think about the work. Walk around and just look at light. I mean, don't feel everything as a photograph, but understand what you're in the middle of. Feel the light, understand it, and see what it's doing, and see what it's presenting itself to you. Light will bring you places that sometimes you forget to look. So, follow that, and be excited every time you pick up the camera and that piece of light falls down through, and you record that piece of light into your memory card nowadays, not on the film, but your memory card. Enjoy the process of what that is, and that you saw it. That's kind of the best part. And don't care if anyone else gets it. Just know that you get it. That's kind of the key thing to me.